Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your next mini lesson. This time we begin the English Renaissance, a celebration of human achievement for the years 1485 through 1660. This unit is going to be in two parts. You'll get the first part of it right now, and the next part actually as we begin next semester. So it's a big chunk of time, so we want to make sure we take our time on it. Take your notes, please, and if you have questions, be sure to reach out to your instructor. Writers during the English Renaissance often found their fates married to the shifting winds of political influence. So as kings and queens rose to power and as varying forms of Christianity became the law of the land, writers found themselves either celebrated for their work or censured for it. Some writers include Sir Thomas More and Sir Walter Raleigh were even put to death for falling out of favor with the rulers of the day. As you will see, the kings and queens who ruled during this period held widely differing views on just about everything of importance, but especially religion. In 1485, Henry Tudor took the throne as Henry VII. He was a shrewd leader and he negotiated favorable commercial treaties abroad, built up the nation's merchant fleet, and he financed expeditions that established English claims in the Americas. He also arranged for his son Arthur to marry the Spanish princess, Catherine of Aragon, thereby creating a political alliance with Spain. England's greatest New World rival at the time was Spain, so to have this political alliance helped them out mutually. When Arthur died unexpectedly, the Pope granted a special disposition that allowed Arthur's younger brother, Henry, the new heir to the throne, to marry Catherine, a marriage that would end up having lasting consequences for English history. You see, during the reign of Henry VIII, dissatisfaction with the Roman Catholic Church was spreading in Europe. They had wealth and power, and that wealth and power in the church had led to corruption at many levels, from the cardinals living in luxury to friars traveling the countryside selling indulgences to peasants in exchange for forgiveness of their sins. In response, in 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther wrote out 95 theses, and he nailed them to the door of a church in Wittenberg. Though the Pope condemned him as a heretic, Luther's criticisms created a sensation, and printed copies were soon in circulation across Europe. Luther wanted the church to reform itself, but other protesters went farther, and they split off from Rome into Reformed Protestant churches. And that's where we get the Lutheran Church today. Additionally, in England at this time, Henry VIII had at first remained loyal to Rome, yet he became obsessed with producing a male heir and so sought an annulment from his wife, who had only given him a daughter named Mary. When the Pope refused, Henry broke with Rome and in 1534 declared himself head of the Church of England. He then divorced Catherine and married her court attendant, Anne Boleyn. In all, Henry went through 6 wives, but only produced a son one time. He was frail and sickly. His name was Edward VI, and he was succeeded at the age of 9 after the death of his father, but he only ruled for 6 years before dying when he was 15. During Edward's reign, a group of radical Protestants believed the church needed even more and further reform and sought to purify of all Roman practices. This group became known as Puritans, who in American Lit came over, as you studied last year, and in coming years, Puritans would increasingly clash with the monarchy. Following Edward, Catherine's daughter Mary took the throne. To avenge her mother, she brought back Roman Catholicism and persecuted Protestants, which earned her the nickname Bloody Mary. On her death in 1558, most citizens welcomed the succession of her half-sister Elizabeth. Elizabeth, who was the unwanted daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, proved to be one of the most ablest monarchs in English history. During her long reign, England enjoyed a time of unprecedented prosperity and international prestige. Elizabeth was a consummate politician, exercising absolute authority while remaining sensitive to that public opinion and respectful of Parliament. She kept England out of costly wars, ended the unpopular Spanish alliance, and encouraged overseas adventures, including Sir Francis Drake's circumnavigation of the globe and Sir Walter Raleigh's attempt to establish a colony in Virginia. In religion, she steered a middle course, reestablishing the Church of England and using it as a buffer between the Catholics and Puritans. Catholics, however, considered her cousin Mary Stuart, the Queen of Scotland, to be the rightful heir to the English throne. After enduring years of conspiracy, Elizabeth ordered Mary beheaded in 1587. In response, Catholic Spain's Philip II sent a great armada or fleet of warships to challenge the English navy. Aided by a violent storm, the smaller, more maneuverable English ships defeated the Spanish armada, making Elizabeth the undisputed leader of a great military power and bringing everyone together. During the Renaissance, the creative energy of the English people burst forth into the greatest harvest of literature the Western world had yet known. Poets and playwrights, readers and listeners, all delighted in the vigor and beauty of the English language. The glittering Elizabethan court was a focus of poetic creativity. Members of the court vied with one another to see who could create the most highly polished, technically perfect poems. The appreciative audience for these lyrics was the elite artistic and social circle that surrounded the Queen. Elizabeth I herself wrote lyrics. She patronized favorite poets and rewarded courtiers for eloquent, poetic tributes. Among her prodigies were Sir Philip Sidney and Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh in turn encouraged Edmund Spenser, who wrote the epic The Faerie Queen, 1590, in honor of Elizabeth. Sir Walter Raleigh and his contemporary Christopher Marlowe wrote excellent examples of a type of poetry popular with Elizabeth's court, the pastoral. Pastoral is a poem that portrays shepherds in rustic life, usually in an idealized manner. The poets did not attempt to write in the voice of a common shepherd, however. Their speakers used courtly language rather than the language of common speech. Pastoral's form was artificial as well, with meters and rhyme schemes characteristic of formal poetry. The Elizabethans viewed nature as intricate, complex, and beautiful. To them, however, the natural world was a subject not for imitation but for improvement by creative minds. Nature provided raw material to be shaped into works of art. The greater the intricacy or artificiality of the result, the more admired the artistry of the poet. Elizabethan poets thus created ingenious metaphors, elaborate allegories, and complex analogies, often within the strictures of a popular verse form that came from Italy, the sonnet, which you'll read about later. Earlier poets such as Sir Thomas Wyatt and Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, had introduced into England the 14-line verse form, modifying it to better suit the English language. During Elizabethan times, the sonnet became the most popular form of love lyric. Sonnets were often published in sequence, such as Edmund Spenser's Amoretti, addressed to his future wife. William Shakespeare's sonnets do not form a clear sequence, but several addressed to a mysterious dark lady some scholars think may have been the poet Amelia Lanier. The English sonnet eventually became known as the Shakespearean sonnet, in tribute to Shakespeare's mastery of the form. So in this piece of the unit, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to read some pastoral poems, you're going to read Shakespearean sonnets, and you're going to read Macbeth, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks as we get started as well. If you have any questions, please make sure to reach out to your instructor. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you back here next time.